The sun just came up, you just woke up, and I'm willing to bet the first thing you did when you woke up today was look at your phone. I'm almost 100% sure that's the first thing you did when you woke up. You took a glaring look at your social media accounts. You tossed and you turned, thinking about what was going on the internet, and you could not resist that urge to look. I used to be just like you. I used to be just like you until I realized how badly this was affecting my mental health. You know, when I was a kid, the internet didn't have real social media. It had websites, it had things you could look at, but it had no social media. So instead of looking at the internet when we woke up, the first thing we would do was turn on the TV. And I remember that when I was a kid, my aunt came to visit us from Panama. For those of you who don't know, I am half Panamanian. My mom is Panamanian. My aunt came to visit us from Panama, and I remember her making a big deal about it. Oh, you guys, you kids have a serious problem. You wake up, the first thing you do is turn on the TV. That's not good. You should read a book. You should pray. You should do any other thing than look at the TV. And at the time as a child, I didn't realize what she was trying to say. At some point during my childhood, when I was about 10, 11 years old, we ended up moving to Panama. And when we moved to Panama, there was no TV, right? Our household had no TV. And at first it bothered me, but eventually I did get used to the idea of waking up, meditating, grounding myself, doing whatever I needed to do to find myself in the morning, right? At the time, in the very beginning, I was a Christian, so I would spend time praying and reading confessionals. And I'm not gonna lie, even though at this point in my life, I don't agree with the ideology that I was following, I do agree that sitting down in the morning and taking some time to think about what you want to do in the day, where you want to go, who you are, how do you feel, is much healthier than turning on the TV and being distracted from the moment you wake up. But eventually I moved back to America. And at first, I followed the same routine. I'd wake up and I would read a book or write or do something constructive or just sit down and think, right? Think about the day. Think about the events that I want to happen on that day or what happened the day before. But little by little, the brain rot started to take over again, right? With the advent of social media. And I would wake up and I would jump on TikTok or Instagram or any other social media and be consumed by whatever was happening on the internet. And this continued to happen up until, I'm going to say 2019, where in 2019, I stopped doing that, right? I started going back to my roots of reading a book early in the morning, focusing my energy on something positive, locking in. And what I noticed was the first time I did that, I felt extremely peaceful for the rest of the day. And after months of doing that, several months of doing that, I ended up landing a job as a software engineer, right? Giant progress simply by focusing my energy in the morning. But once I became a software engineer and started making some real money, I went back. I went back to waking up and looking at social media, looking at my phone before doing anything else in the day, right? And I did that for multiple years, just waking up in the morning, looking at my phone, being consumed by whatever nonsense was happening on the internet. I became a YouTuber and I became consumed by a YouTube studio, waking up, looking at my analytics, worrying about, oh, how many views I got, what videos doing well, what videos not doing well, completely consumed until about, I'm going to say 7 days ago. 7 days ago, I told my girlfriend that I wanted a book, right? It was this book, chat. This is the book I'm reading right now. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. Very good book, by the way. I recommend. If you haven't watched the movies, read the book, then go watch the movies. But that's besides the point. A few days ago, I started to jump back into my old routine, which is actually the good routine, ironically, of waking up in the morning and instead of looking at my phone, instead of focusing on what's going on the internet, instead of obsessing about my social media presence, which I still do, I'm not going to lie, I still am going to look at the app multiple times today, but it's not the first thing I did when I woke up. The first thing I did when I woke up was read about 10 pages of this book and think and balance myself and find peace. And I think that that goes a long way to combating the brain rot that we're facing in society, right? Every single time I've done this experiment, I've become more successful. For those of you who don't know, I am a software engineer by profession. Got laid off, I'm going to say 2 weeks ago, about 11 days ago. So I'm locking in right now, going back, reviewing some stuff, new items, learning data structures and algorithms. But all of that stuff takes extreme concentration, right? And I really do feel that if you're a person who's obsessed, consumed by social media, you wake up in the morning, that's the first thing you do, you're not going to have the bandwidth. You're just not going to have the mental bandwidth. And I think that me waking up in the morning now and reading this book, when I finish reading this book, I have a whole bunch. I have at least 4 other books that I have not read that I own. You know, I have over 50 books, maybe even 100 books. I can't tell from here. A lot of fucking books that I read during the time period where I was learning how to become a software engineer. When I was learning how to become a software engineer, I went through at least 100 books. Physical books, I like the physical books more, to be honest, because they're very tactile. When you read a physical book, your brain captures more of what you're reading. I can go back and find in the book a spot that fascinated me just by memory, just by the tactile sensation of holding the book in your hand. And I don't know how it works, but your brain basically memorizes in the book where things were versus reading it on a screen. But that's besides the point. Maybe I'll make a video about that as well. Anyways, when I was becoming a software engineer, I read a whole bunch of books. And I think that that really helped me grow my focus, grow my concentration, grow my ability to withhold information, gather information and keep it and be able to recall things and just become a better thinker, right? And I think that a lot of the people that are struggling in life right now, a lot of the people that are trying to accomplish something, but they find themselves struggling to stay focused, it's because they spend too much time, especially in the morning, on social media. I am a strong believer that your mind only has a certain amount of processing power it can consume in a day. And when you wake up in the morning and you consume literal gigabytes of information, you waste the thinking potential you have for the rest of the day. You've squandered it on nonsense, on foolishness. So the only way to grow that bandwidth is by reading and by grounding yourself in the moment, right? And I think that jumping on social media first time in the morning, as soon as you wake up, also has a very devastating effect on how grounded you are in the moment, right? Because you're not in the moment when you're watching social media. You're not. You are projecting your mind forward, either into the future or into the mindsets of other people. You're being influenced by other people as soon as you wake up, instead of balancing yourself out and finding who you are when you wake up, right? What you want to do, what you plan on doing for the day, just finding yourself, being yourself, having an independent thought for once in your fucking life. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess the takeaway of this video is that if you really want to become a better, well-rounded person who has a larger mental capacity to achieve their goals than, or your goals, sorry, then maybe you should step away from social media in the morning. And I'm not saying that you can't use your phone after you wake up, but it shouldn't be the very first thing you do as soon as you wake up. I really, really think that this is not good for your mental health. So I guess follow my suit, right? Just follow me into the experiment that is finding yourself and working towards your goals. Anyways, I don't know. I might just be crazy. This might just be me, but it's my opinion on this whole life that we're all on a journey through, and how social media affects your mind and just finding yourself, right? Just being able to accomplish your goals and think clearly. And I really do, at least for me, I feel like social media doesn't help me at all think clearly. It fogs my mind, it shortens my attention span, and it really is a limiting factor towards reaching the goals that I'm trying to accomplish in my life. And I think that maybe that might be the same case in yours. So, anyways, subscribe, turn on notifications. I stream every single day, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.